everyone. I'd like to call the August Cypresswood Community Association meeting to order. Filling in for our secretary today is our able Vice President, Mr. Rick Reese. If you'll do the roll, sir.
I will. Your mic's not up very high.
Okay, do that while I turn it up.
Okay.
Speak loud, Rick.
Testing. Club patio. Here. Cypress Pond. Here. Eagle Pond.
Enclave.
Here.
Fairway patio.
Here.
Garden patio.
Here.
Golf villas. Greenfield Village. Meadows.
Here.
Oak Grove.
Here.
Palmacia.
Here.
Plantations.
Here.
Sand Hill Lane.
Here.
Villas on the Green.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Savannah, next slide, please. I need a motion and a second to accept tonight's meeting agenda, please.
Motion.
Jim Hammond makes the motion. Do we have a second? Martha in the back. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next slide, please, Savannah. Oh, other way. I'm sorry. I also need, it's not on the slide. I also need a motion and approval for the July 2020 meeting minutes for the, and Mr. Klutner has made such a motion. Mr. Cramp has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right. Don't notice the next slide is Mr. Tucker with the Treasurer's Advisory Committee, and you can go to the next slide. We'll get in flow here.
Is there a next on the
Yeah,
board this
in front of the chair, please.
All right, as you can see from the slide, the July 31st balance sheet report, the operating cash for the month.
Closer to you. Closer to you.
Closer to me?
The mic.
Oh, okay, is that better? I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Yes, you are. No, it's okay. He's fine there. It's not that. He's got a lot of electronics in the room.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry to mess your ears up. Jeanette, you okay? All right, that's a little better, I think. Operating cash for the month end, $143,390. The reserve balances, $149,301 for general reserve. Stormwater pump reserve, $257,610. Stormwater pump reserve, I'm sorry, that was road reserve. Stormwater pump reserve, $133,000. Interest reserve, $15,009. Reserve front entrance, $16,105. Total reserve cash, $571,941. Total available cash is $292,691. Expenses are is over currently at $92,570. There will be some settling of that overage as the year goes on because we'll be accruing more reserves and that'll clear up some of that overage. Any questions, please? Well, that was simple.
There you go.
Thank you.
Again, all this will be posted on the website and emailed to the presidents as we've done in the past. Next slide, please, Savannah. Oh, yeah, this is mine. Okay, so at the workshop, I presented this document from my company to the to be presented at this meeting to be discussed. Basically, what this document says that if any profits are realized by the LLC for the remainder of the LLC's term, which goes to January 1st, 2023, that all those profits will go back into the CCA as paid as an assessment. Is that clear? Does everybody understand what the document says? It also, Martha.
What if that's over that
Oh.
number that you're supposed to?
Oh,
Oh.
so it says. In the event Number 3 back there, in the event that the LLC experiences temporary cash flow deficits, which it does from time to time, in 3 out of the 5 years, I've had to take a small bridge loan to get payroll to get matched with cash flow towards the end of the year. They've all been resolved by the end of the year. So that, for full disclosure, as I always do, that is something that's happened in 3 out of the 5 years. Such a loan request would be made to the board, and the board can choose whether or not to fund that as a short-term loan vehicle to the LLC that will be paid back with a promissory note and like a normal short-term loan would be done. So that's basically what this operating entity agreement reads. Are there any questions? Mr. Hammond?
Yes, generally, how much are those, Bob? When you've done the 3
They've ranged between 15 and 25,000.
Okay.
Which is basically a payroll and a half, just to essentially what it is. It's usually from mid-September to 1st of November where that operating cash. Now this year it may be a little different because again, we lost 40 days of revenue due to COVID. So we will feel that in something. We're doing a cash projection now. We should have that available soon. Any other questions? Would somebody like to make a motion to enter in such an agreement? Because it has to come from somebody other than me. Mr. Shire has made such a
I would
motion.
make a motion that we enter that agreement.
Yes. Mr. Brett, you seconding that? Any questions? Yes.
The question I brought up earlier, are you going to recommend that there be a change in the wording, or?
Mr. Tassin brought to it that he thinks that in the first line where we define the Cypresswood Community Association as the tenant, he recommended that we change that to association. The reason the word tenant is because it does follow the wording in the lease. However, I have no objection if we want to change that word from association, or from tenant to association in the document. If you don't, I mean, it's up to Mr. Hammond.
I would recommend that you do it tenant/association. The reason I say that is because then that takes any question about the match to the documents in the lease earlier on, but also addresses the other situation that John brings up, so that any person who reads it wouldn't have to know what the lease says to know that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I have no objection to that. If that's clear, we just want it to be clear and transparent to everybody. We're not trying to. We're just trying to be good stewards of the land. So, do we? Okay. Yes, John.
Well, the way you just said it, I don't want to have the rest of it missed, because tenant occurs in a number of places.
And I said everywhere where it says tenant, we could change it to tenant/association. And if we're not comfortable with doing it without seeing it, I can always send it out and we can have a vote by email too, if that makes more sense, because since it is a document. What do you guys want me to do? Which way? We have a motion and a second. If we're gonna, do we have any other questions? Jason, do you have a question?
Well, my question is, as far as this agreement goes, there's nothing really in there defined, so if we get so far into the year and then you decide to give yourself a $50,000 raise for the year, or to give any other employee a raise in the LLC.
That's what the RAC is watching the finances of the LLC. That would be a very devastating thing to my company if I lost the trust of RAC and they weren't watching every penny of every dime like they do every day of every week. So I don't have any. I mean, I'm not one to speak for Martha and RAC, but it's not like the wagon's going down the road untethered, as many of who have been in those meetings have seen. They go over every detail of every part of my operation. So.
Right, we would see that.
No, I'm not saying.
No,
You're right,
I'm
it doesn't-
just saying we're writing a contract, but there's nothing in there to say you're gonna give all the profit, but that doesn't mean that you can't change the structure of how much you pay people and how much you pay yourself in the course of business for that year, which definitely affects the profit that the CCA will receive. Not that you don't deserve a raise and you don't deserve, I mean, I saw your tax return, more than what you're paying yourself, but at
You're
the
right.
same token, we have a contract and it's it's very broad. You'll give us,
If he did that, we would see it, and we would, I am almost certain, agree to bring that to the attention of the board.
Right.
And we would be notifying everybody that such a thing had happened.
Right, and
And that
because
would
of
be- that would be-
because of the operational reserves that are effectively keeping the LLC in business, right, if that spigot gets shut off, I'm effectively on the bread line anyway.
right.
So I mean, it would be really, really silly of me to lose the trust of the board and to the RAC to do something like that. However, again, any president can look at the LLC books at any time they want to. They are wide open, they can be seen. That's why I put my tax return up there. But I take your point. So what do we want to call the question, or do we want to email out with the wording change? What do we want to do?
I think it would
Wait.
be appropriate.
Wait, hold on.
I think it would be appropriate to ask the movement if he wishes to amend his motion.
Okay.
To change language.
Exactly.
Bill, would
Thank
you?
I'll amend the motion to include the fact that wherever that document references you as the tenant, it refers, the CCA, it references it as association and tenant. And that we only move forward with this document on the basis that that's been done to it.
Okay, Mr. Brad, are you good with that as your second?
Whatever Bill said.
All right, fantastic. Any other questions on the motion? Do you have a question?
No, I said
No.
motion. I'm voting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next slide, please. Landscape, Mr. Wilson, come on down. To the next.
Thank you. This is going to be a short report tonight because I know we have a couple of other presentations that have to be made. I first want to thank the presidents again for approving the tree trimming budget. We should be starting in another 2 weeks on getting that done, focusing on the palms here at the pool, the canopy all the way down to the end of Cypresswood Boulevard, and that's going to start shortly. One of the things I would ask the presidents, we talked about this a year or two ago, the common area that's up by the sign that points down here to the clubhouse, there is that big common area we have. And just as you go west on Clubhouse Drive, there is a big oak tree. Underneath that oak tree seems to be some of the favorite spots for the residents to dump their tree waste, their yard waste when they don't.
That's not the residents, that's Prime Care has been dumping there.
No, I understand about Prime Care. There was another time that there was trimmings that were dumped in there, and I would just gently remind the presidents that are close to that area, please remind the residents not to do that, because the county will not pick up anything from there. And typically what happens, somebody will pick that up and put it in front of their own yard so that it will be removed. And just a reminder for that. And I just would appreciate it, because a year or so ago there were people actually dumping window screens there and an old folding chair because they don't want it in front of their house, so they put it in a common area. And just a reminder that to the residents that that's not what that's for. So anyway, any questions? At this point, I'm finished with the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide, please, Savannah. The Recreational Amenities Committee, Martha. Pretty please. Sure, next slide, please, Savannah.
Okay, this is a pretty standard RAC report. I'll start at the bottom. The total we're requesting is $77,000, and it's made up of two different main parts. One part is repair to cart paths, which I'll get to in a minute, and the other is a whole variety of things that comes up on a quarterly basis, sometimes a monthly basis. Repairs and maintenance, agronomics, the principal on the loan, interest payment, insurance, utilities, things like that. The $35,000 I'd like Bill to make a comment about. We have a little money left over with our loan, and we'd like to make an additional improvement on the golf course.
Thank you, Martha. Did we make a slide on what I sent you, on the list of the cart paths?
I don't think I got that.
Okay. We've identified, this is important because, number one, when we open our golf course back up in the middle of October, we're going to have some events to kick that off. But what we want to do is really impress people with what we've done here. Creating traffic on our golf course is what's going to move forward for us to generate the most revenue out there. We've looked at getting cart paths repaired. We cannot afford to rebuild our cart paths, but we've looked hard at cart path repair, and we found one firm that does small batch concrete repairs. That means they have the ability to transport concrete into areas typically concrete trucks can't go. I got a quote from him to do 20 locations on cart paths. That came in at a surprisingly good number. And then there are two major, so that's about $15,000 of it. The other is a budget in place for a large contractor to repair first the cart path on number 7. That entire cart path is just plain gone. It can't be patched. There's a whole lot to it. And then the second part of that is the area from out front here over to number 10T. That passes between our driving range and our practice putting green. That is going to be a primary inspection place for people who come here to look at us to see if they want to play golf with us. The condition that area is in is terrible. I've got quotes to repair those two things from 2 years ago that come to $18,000. I'm meeting with I was supposed to meet with the contractor last week, and we just couldn't get together, but I'll be meeting with him, I hope, this week, and we're going to go over that in detail, modify the work he's going to do. I don't think it's going to take the $20,000 that we're asking for, and if we don't need it, we won't spend it. We'll turn it back in. But I need to meet with him to find out what it will take for him to do those two locations. Once we've done these repairs, our cart paths will be amongst the better cart paths of all the golf courses that are in the area. Since our course has been down and since I've decided to come back to the game of golf, I've been traveling to all these other locations, and that's where I kind of picked up on this. Everybody's got this problem, but nobody has it as bad as we do. And the locations that I've identified, the 20 spots for the small batch guy, and then these two main locations, that's going to step us up a lot. So I'm here pleading for it on the basis that it's going to generate the money to pay for itself, I believe, within the first year. If we don't do it, then we're going to beat our own carts up, your cart, if you personally own one, and our company carts. And it will not be a pleasant experience for our guests. So does anyone have any questions about that? I'm going to start with Mr. Cramp here.
Do we have the money to do that? The 77, or the 35,000?
You answer.
Yeah. So the remaining money in
from the loan.
the loan is $192,000. This is a golf course improvement, so it applies into those purposes.
Okay.
We also have about $45,000 left in the RAC assessment after the obligations of the loan left over. So that's basically the money remaining is $230,000-ish. And that's after the 42's already out of that money, assuming it's approved.
Okay,
So that's not in that total.
okay.
Any, Mr. Klutenauer?
Bill, how many feet of cart path are we talking about, you know?
Several.
There's 20 locations, and at each location, and think of it in panels. Those of you that have been out there, they are concrete panels that are about 4 by 4. Is that about the right size of those squares? I'd say there's an average of 2 to 3 panels per the 20 locations. There are a couple of spots that are big pours, like on number 1, right after you come past the T's and make that whole thing should be fixed. I mean, that's an expensive piece, right? That's an example of a more expensive piece, Mark. I do have a quote that's by location, and I do want to go over that with you because of your knowledge, but and then I'll get down to getting it done. But if we can get the approval at this level, we will not go over this level. I guarantee you, we're going to turn some money back in on this. The timing on this is important because if we don't address it now, I'm sorry. Thank you. If we don't address it now, then we're going to address it while people are here playing. That isn't going to work, folks. The golf course is empty. Now's the time to get out there and do it. And so that's why I'm pushing hard. I've told the contractors I want this done by September 15th. I need to have a little bit of wiggle room in there, and we're in position to do that. I'm sorry. I avoid that, Mark. I've got detail you and I can go through. Tom Brett?
Yeah, I was just wondering if, when they pull off the old part, will they take those roots out of there that are lifting up a lot of it?
If we don't take the roots out of there, we're not doing this. Okay? You right?
Okay, do we have quotes from at least two different asphalt contractors?
We're not working with asphalt on that. I'm looking at asphalt on the one location. On the concrete, I've got 2 quotes on that, and this one is certainly way less expensive than the other one. So I know I'm safe there. When it comes to the 2 large areas, that would be done with, there's a special paving machine for that. It's an 8-foot paver. There's one in the state, and everybody fights for it when they want to do a project. And I believe that that's how our contractor came up with that pricing. No, I have not received other quotes on that. Frankly, it's hard to find people to do that kind of work. It's to us it's a big deal. It's a small job. That all? Thank you.
Is that did anything other than rack report?
You need a motion on
But
it?
I want to thank RAC, or Bill is on the Recreation Amenities
I
Committee.
still have another question.
Okay, he's the one who took the point on this, and we want to thank him for his extra efforts.
Mark?
Not that I don't agree with Bill, he and I have looked at the cart pass, and I've talked to other people about doing them, but I do know that we are looking at the pumps on number 15. We don't have a final number on that. It could conceivably exceed the amount in the reserve fund, because we're going to try to fix it at number 15 the way it should be fixed for the next 30 to 40 years. And to me, as much as I, would like to see the car pass done at this time, until we have the final numbers on the pump and we know where we're at with that, which we're getting close. We should have it by next month. They've sent me the shop drawings, which once I sign off on those shop drawings, we buy it. So I have a number of details. I've been talking with the engineers from the pump company to get final details down. And we have structures and other things to do.
Again, the opportunity is to do it now or wait until next summer, because we're not gonna close the golf course down once we reopen it. So that's the decision to make. If we don't do it now, we're gonna push it until the late spring, early summer of next year. And if that's the feeling, that's fine. I mean, it is a choice.
Yeah, and last week, the outflow pump that's south of the golf course maintenance barn, we have a bearing that's making noise on that, and that's not a planned repair. So we're looking at doing something on that as well, this year sometime.
And I think what you're saying is, you're not wrong. We're gonna end up using reserve money that should have been assessed for years ago, like we've been talking about all summer long, and building up the assessment to meet the need.
Well, I know that, but these things have to be done, and I'm just, there's a matter of priorities here right now.
I'm not.
I'm having a little bit of time struggling with it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's fine. I mean, that's a good opinion. If there's pump issues out there that the board needs to be made aware of, those do take more priority over them, because that affects people's homes. So, if we want to pull it, if we want to do that, that's a decision that we can do.
It's not,
We on the RAC did, first of all, we did not put Cart Pass earlier on in this project to bring to you, because we didn't know if there'd be any funds available to do so. So we have waited till this point in time to say, yes, we think we can get some improvements to our Cart Pass. And RAC did recommend, as a committee, that we do it now, prior to our opening in October. So that's the committee's consensus.
Mr. Hammond was first.
All right, I'm trying to understand this.
You need to come up because you're
Oh, okay.
masked and not loud. Unlike me, I don't need the mic, but I'm required to use it apparently.
Okay. I'm a little confused. Is it, we only have enough for either or? Is that what I'm hearing, Mark? Or we don't have money reserves for both things?
Well, I'm saying we have a certain amount of money. We can go back in the slides and look at how much we have in the pump reserve there.
Okay,
But it could exceed that amount.
okay.
Okay.
Well, let's say it does exceed that amount at this point.
As, and we have this other situation that has developed in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
Of the other outflow pump.
Yeah,
And that could be, at the very minimum, it would be $5,000,
okay,
okay? If they pull the pump and would start to disassemble it, it could be substantially more than that. It could be $25,000.
okay. So let's say it is $15,000 or $20,000, all right? And then this $35,000 that he's asking for,
Yeah,
all right, that comes out of the loan, but this comes out of the reserves, and we're concerned that the reserves will be exceeded by, what do you think, how much? If we said 20,000, 25,000 on the one, and the overage that you were talking about a moment ago, I forgot the number, on the other one, are those competing numbers? Is that what we're saying?
no.
For the same funds?
well, I'm saying that we're gonna have to take into consideration the fact that this pump project, we don't have a final number on yet.
Right.
And where is that money gonna come from?
Right.
We have some loan funds. The loan funds are not restricted to just the golf course, correct?
Or any improvement.
Any improvement within the community.
Correct. Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. We need to make sure we know,
But other reserve funds, the general reserves and things like that.
well,
could
we
be
have,
used as
we have
well.
an excessive amount. We're also looking at paving the boulevard from the
Yeah,
from
I
the
know.
guard shack, from Dundee Road down to the four-way stop, which it
Right.
needs.
Mhm.
Now, Bill and I have gotten numbers on that. We went out and remeasured it and confirmed it, and we certainly have enough money in the road reserve.
Okay,
So we could steal money from the road reserve, but we're not accumulating enough money in the road reserve based on today's numbers
for the
to
future.
redo them in the future.
I got you.
So
Be part of their
we'd
budget.
be, stealing
Yeah.
it from Peter to pay Paul. Yeah, we do
Yeah,
that.
gotcha. Okay, I understand now.
Mr. Boone, come up here, please. Careful.
Yeah, sorry. Old age.
I gotcha.
Now, do we have any idea on the pumps yet what they're going to cost, or have they been ordered, anything been done on these pumps?
I'm sorry, Our committee has a report coming
Yeah,
up, all this.
Okay, then I'll.
Yeah, not to cut you off,
Yeah,
but
let's-
we're
let's-
gonna
okay,
go,
then I'll
everything
address
we're
the
talking
amendments.
about
Okay.
coming up again later.
Okay, so, any more questions? So we have to have a motion to approve something or not to approve something, so somebody needs to,
I'll make a motion to accept the ask that the RAC committee recommended.
the 77,000 with the two things. Do we have a second? Richard, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed. I think we should wait until we get the numbers.
Well, just.
Numbers, okay, so, but there is a timing issue, Tom. We won't be able to start the cart pass after, unless we do an email vote, once we're gonna get the number. I don't know how quickly we're gonna get those numbers, we'll do before for the reopening. If not, then we wait till next year. That's okay. It's not the preference, but it is an option. Hold on just a second. Come up here and talk. You can talk. You wanna say something?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. I think it was at the last meeting, somebody said, why don't you use the money that's in the cash reserves to take care of the shortfall? And I think it was Bill got up and said, you need money in case there's a major event. And the last major event that I know of was in 2004 when the 3 storms came over here. And everybody was assessed $50 to clean up, to help, and everything else. And nobody complained because everybody understood that. So my thinking on this is, the shortfall that we're looking at here needs to be looked upon as a major event. I mean, a major event isn't only a hurricane. This is a major event. Benito.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Voted.
And voted.
One person voted no, everybody else
So
voted
then
yes.
it passes.
Motion passed.
Yes, the motion passed. Next slide, new business. Next slide, traffic control report and budget presentation by Rick Reese.
No, I'll be up for
Rick is first.
He's bigger than I am.
Next slide, please, Savannah.
Thanks, Bill.
Get that over.
I'm sure that you all can see that because I can barely see it.
Sorry, it's a big document.
Traffic control budget is remaining the same except for one item.
Savannah, can you blow up the bottom? Can you make that, this part bigger? Yeah, bigger. And then go slide it up a little.
Having a bit of difficulty in that.
You see the bottom, the operating cost from there down.
You don't know what to do that way.
Okay, all right. All right. Yeah, it's
Okay.
That's the best I can
you
do.
know what the change is.
Yeah, I know what the change is.
Just trying to show the people.
Thankfully, last year, we voted as a board to fund an hourly wage increase for all of the staff. So that has been very well received. I think our staff is doing a great job. Last year, we had budgeted, actually for this year, 2020, $6,000 for our Polk County Sheriff patrols. That's getting rather tight. So I'm asking that for this coming year, that we increase the budget by $2,000 to increase the number of patrols. As everyone is aware, we've had some issues in the neighborhood. The more presence we can have with law enforcement, the better. These are special details that we're asking for. And one of the special details, as an example, would be Halloween. So that's the only real change. So traffic is asking for an increase of $2,000 earmarked for the Polk County Sheriff's Office details. Questions? John?
Yeah, is there a way that the duration of that detail, instead of 4 hours, could be 3, and
That's a great question. Right now, the expense to the traffic budget is $144 for a 4-hour shift. Unfortunately, you can't get shorter shifts. So that is the required minimum. So that part we're stuck at. Mike?
There's been, you know, the reports that you've issued and the warning we got from the sheriff's office about stolen vehicles.
Yes.
Is there any indication, or do you have any feedback from the sheriff as to residents bringing in acquaintances from surrounding subdivisions participating in this? Do you have any information at all?
We have no data that that is what's occurring. None. I've not heard any reports from the sheriff on any of that.
What was the question?
I'm sorry, Tom. The question was, do we have any reports or any data that would suggest that residents are bringing unfriendly people in and the unfriendly people are causing our problems? And we have nothing to that. I will say, at some point, my dream budget would include getting rid of the clickers and having a proximity reader that's going to read, whether you want to call it a barcode, whatever, on vehicles that are owned by residents. That is the Mac Daddy. You can tell when somebody comes in, what car came in at what time on what day, and it will do away with everybody in Winter Haven and Lakeland and everywhere else that has a clicker. And there, by the way, when we go to something like that, you're not going to have a choice. If you say, I don't want that, I will still come through the non-resident lane, no, that's not how that's going to work. So, but that's a long way down the road.
What's it cost?
About 40 to 45 grand is the last quote I had, and that's been 2 years ago.
Do you think there's a lot of clickers out there?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. As far as I know, the same code on the clickers has been in effect since Fred Flintstone came through the gate the first time.
When I started.
Can't we change the code and then they just have to come to the pro shop, Bob, and?
Sure.
and
Sure.
get it, and then-
Since 1986, we've sold almost, I think it's 3,700 clickers. So yeah, we'll have all those people traipsing through the pro shop to do that, starting in 2029 when I'm retired. Yeah, no, it's a little bit more than that. It's a lot of clickers been sold over the course since 1992.
There is a thought to all of this that if we're able at some point in the future to be able to do the proximity reader type of setup, that the way that you would try to handle that is the little barcode or whatever you want to call that, they don't cost that much to produce. So if we go that route, there would be a situation of whoever turns in a clicker, they get a credit back so that the barcode is not going to cost them anything. That's an idea. Okay?
And we'll do that at the traffic control center, and we'll have a line to downtown Winter Haven. Just kidding. We'll certainly help with that endeavor when that comes about. All right, so we got to go back one more, Savannah. Thank you. So we need a provisional motion. Remember how we do this? We provisionally vote in each one of the individual budgets. Then the Treasurer's Advisory Committee gets the work product, puts it together, and comes back with the final assessment. So you will have another bite at this apple if you choose. So they're asking for a $2,000 increase to $141,000 and change. Do I have a motion to accept?
Yeah.
Mr. Brett? Mr. McCullough, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Fantastic. Thank you. Rick McCullough. Thank you. Next slide, please, is Road and Drainage Committee report and budget presentation by Bill Shira.
What fun, it's me again. I know y'all are enjoying this. All right, here's the budget worksheet. Basically, we've seen a huge increase in the cost of resurfacing. And as you look at this, you'll see that that's the top item. Road reserve funding last year was $28,000. My proposal, the proposal we've come to you with is to move to $52,000. That's what it will take to meet the needs to fund each of the projects as they come in. It looks like they'll come up as 3 different groups of projects. The first one would be anytime we decide to pull the trigger. Mark's been keeping an eyeball on our main boulevard that's running from 542 up to the 4-way stop. That road is now 14 years old. We project the life to be 15 years. We've had to do some repairs to it. We see the seam separating. There's just a lot to it. It's a heavily traveled road. It's not as much as the weight of the traffic as it is the type of traffic and the quantity. We know the tough things on our roads are the things that have tandem wheels, like trash trucks and school buses. We've made improvements so that they'd be less damaging by, when we pave the entire radiuses on the roads as one pour at one time. That keeps the seams there a lot nicer, and so they're going to last a little longer. But so we know we're going to have a lot more road costs coming up. And again, the first one, $188,000, and we're prepared to pull a trigger on that when we sit and say, and we look at it, okay, it's bad enough, we'll come ask you, you'll say, go do it. Bing, we got the money now to do it. What we don't have accumulated in our $264,000 is the past depreciation of the other roads. And that's why this needs to move up to $52,000. The actual depreciation each year on our road is about $41,000 at today's cost. So you can see we've been accumulating at $28,000. That's not accumulating enough. We got a big chunk of money and we can do things with it, but we're not caught up on the other roads that are part of that. So that has to move to this amount, because this begins to drop down. We got to build her back up for the next batch of roads. I didn't want to bore you with that schedule. I've got it here with me. If anybody wants to review that, I'd be more than happy to go over it. I show a contribution and relief schedule year by year up through 2036. The next part of that, we have a reserve for stormwater pumps. We started that 7 years ago. It's currently, at the end of this year, it will be at $138,000. We know we've got a major pump overdue coming on number 15, and we've got a new repair that we're going to need to do there. And when we've been doing those repairs, we typically can look at going to the reserve account to pay for those repairs. But Mark's just got all the drawings with regard to how the pump's going to be done. Now he's designing the collection box and the transfer system for the water so we can get it up over and into the canal over there. So we would stay with that. Our drainage repairs, those are repairs we make to pipes that are in the ground. That's a budget that it just is going to go on and on and on until we've gotten through all of the concrete metal pipe that's in the ground here. I think we've got 5 miles of it left to do, something like that. We've gotten something like 8 miles or 9 miles of it done over the past 25 years. So we're plowing along on that. At some point in time, that'll go down, but I don't think I'll be part of this at that point in time. We've added a pump maintenance category. We've hired a company to come out and provide maintenance to our pumps on a monthly basis. It's a 68-point step process at each of the pumps to go through and run them and check them. They do that on a monthly basis. The company is CW Pumps, and they're located close to us here. We're pleased that they accept to do that. at only $360 some a month. In addition to that, we have defined a need to have someone on site assigned by the association to operate the pumps that it would be independent of the golf course. That individual lives on Greenfield. That operator is for the backup stormwater pump that's on Greenfield over after you pass the Meadows subdivision. And we've interviewed an individual that would do that for us. He is a mechanic, he's a supervisor with the school board. He's worked there for ages, takes care of the school buses. This is the kind of person that knows how to deal with our pump over on Greenfield. And the last thing, our power bills, it's been pretty constant. $2,500 is a good budget for us to work there. We stay the same there. And herbiciding, we do not anticipate an increase in pricing. Herbiciding is where we spray all the ponds and all the water transfer areas. Again, we've been doing that for a few decades, and that's a pretty routine thing for us now. So in total, we're talking about this budget category increasing by $30,000 a year. It's actually $29,200, but 30,000 is close enough. So now, having said all of that, questions? Dave Grant.
When do you expect to pave from the Dundee Road to the four-way stop? Is there
Dundee Road to the four-way stop.
yes. When do you expect to do that?
The question is, when do we expect to pave the boulevard?
Well, I'd like to let the weather dry out a little bit before we go ahead and do that. So we're looking a few months away.
I'm not a road worker, but that road seems fine to me. And when you're saying four, big tandem trucks, does John Wood pay anything for bringing those trucks into his pasture back there?
No, I'd like, Bob probably can better answer that, but I'll give it a shot. We actually have, it's not John Wood. The Man Farm uses that, and the Beauchamp property in the back. They have legal access through our property. When this area was defined, this planned unit development, there was a county road that came right through here. We closed that county road. When we did that, some homeowners were restricted from having access to their property. So we have in the covenants of the Master Association, we have to provide them access, and that means the grove trucks and that kind of stuff that go back there. So it's not the developers organization. It goes with all the land back there that we're tied to. John?
Yeah, that access, is that to any vehicles that they use now or might use in the future, like heavy construction equipment?
Yeah, it would be, because we're talking public access, yes.
So anything they would want to do?
Anything they need to do, want to do.
I think that's in the county documents when they put the community together, not in our legal documents.
Thank you. Yeah, it's part of the PUD.
Yeah, it's not in our
Defines that.
documents, it's
Thank
in
you.
the county's legal description of the property, or however that's organized.
The county easement.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Others?
Tim.
Timmy. Oh, thanks. I cut you off. I apologize.
Come on down. Don't with the. What did I do with mine? Here.
Okay, but,
Stay here by the cameras, so Savannah doesn't get.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Carpal tunnel.
okay, I'm representing Greenfield. So I want to know the pumps, have they been ordered, or are we waiting for all the new designs to be ordered?
Mark just talked about that.
Well, have you got a price, or what's your timeline on ordering pumps?
No, I mean, well, as soon as they gave me the updated drawings, I just got the drawings 2 days ago. So I sent them today, I spoke to them about getting some additional information for elevation, so I can sign off. Once I sign off and send it back to them, then they'll give us the final quote, and then we're looking at, 8 weeks to 10 weeks to get the pumps delivered.
Okay, now, is there money set aside for it, or do you just have money in reserve? Well, I mean, is it earmarked directly for those pumps, or is that just money you have in reserve?
We do have money directly.
Directly
That's
for
what
those
that
pumps?
reserve is for.
Okay.
That's for pumps.
Okay, well, that's what I meant there, so that it's not the money, I want to make sure that, money that you have money there for that, but the pump can be set aside and money can be used somewhere else.
No, that money is for the pumps.
Okay, now can you get, for Greenfield, do you care to give us the information on who you got for the backup to take care of the pumps during hurricanes? You don't have to say it right now, but I mean.
No, I mean, I'll say it's Aaron McKenzie who lives behind me.
Okay, I just need information for other people in that regard.
That we have not officially put that in place yet.
Okay.
We're,
but everything's been tested on the,
everything's, we've been through it with him.
in regards to the backup pump on the diesel pump that you
Yes.
got for backup?
Yep.
Everything's tested and ready to go in those
Yep.
regards?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I've got another situation that I want to address. There's been formal letters sent out, I don't know if anybody's received them yet or not, from Greenfield, in regards to between number 12, the drainage between number 12 and Meadow Lake Court. The grade was checked for flooding coming in. What we're wanting done, Greenfield's wanting done, is to check the grades from pond to pond. You've got a crown there, and the water's supposed to drain both directions. What's happened now, you've got different areas, the water is just sitting there. And we've got different homeowners, not one, we got different homeowners now that are having problems with the water sitting there. You've got tractors that are just getting stuck up, and you can't mow it. And then you've also got people, we had a lady the other day that went out and tried to take a picture of her sunset. She couldn't do it because the mosquitoes swarmed her and attacked her because that water's just sitting there. We'd like to have that cleaned and redefined where the water drains properly instead of just sits there in people's backyard. So I just wanted to see that, make sure that y'all knew that needs to be addressed.
We have not received a letter, to my knowledge at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so here is the budget, and I'd like to get, if I've answered, John, did you?
Could you send a copy of the document that you didn't want to bother us with?
Sure.
For aging or whatever it was? When you send the other document, could you
Yes.
do that?
Bob has it, yeah, he can send that. That was that drawdown schedule, sure.
Appreciate it.
Anything else? Thank you.
Do you want to vote on the budget?
Yeah, we're gonna do that. I mean, he can't do it.
Let me just say something.
Okay, come on up here.
Several people in our community are concerned about the assessment coming up. And I have a problem with us paving at this point in time and spending this money. My suggestion is delay it a year to help make the people don't pay the whatever's coming up to be.
Thank you, and remember that you are making a provisional approval for this budget, that the Treasurer's Advisory Committee will take all the budgets and they will wrangle out the assessment. So, and there'll be an opportunity for the board to vote up or down the assessment request made by the Treasurer's Advisory Committee. So there is another point in this budget process. So we have a budget proposal for 2021 from the Road and Drainage Committee of $151,700. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Howells made such a motion. Do we have a second? Mrs. Goodrich, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Thank you. It passes. Thank you very much. Oh, is there any other new business to be brought before the board? Apparently not.
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, wait a minute, come on.
No, I was just asking, do we know what the dues would be? Not the dues, but the fee for playing golf?
No, I am in the final stages of wrapping my head around that. That's a very, very complicated question, and I'm getting there slowly. Yes, Mr. Howard, did you have a question?
I just wanted to ask Bill, for the sake of all the other HOAs, because we have a road reserve, which back in January, February, when I talked to Bill and Mark, we were fine, and based on what he's saying now, we're projecting $51,000 in our two-street road reserve in 6 years when it's due. Are we really okay, or do we need to go?
It's
and the other
probably,
HOAs need to think about
I
this.
think I can answer this, and it's a similar answer that we've had, that Mr. Shire is more than willing to meet with each association to determine their need based on the current price of asphalt and the current cost of the roads. That price goes up and down. And so what you're projecting, hopefully for almost a worst case scenario thing, and hopefully that it doesn't go higher than that. But I think that each of you can make a request to Mr. Shire, and you can recalculate based on today's pricing. But today's pricing may not be your price in 6 years. Which is is that
That's fair, and I'd like to say the numbers that I used for this, and what we've learned is we need to add milling to everything. Maybe not in your area yet, but out on the boulevard, that's pushing $2 a square. In the past, the last time we paved, I think we got it done for $4.75 a square. Now it's going to be, with milling, $12 a square. Mark?
And asphalt paving itself, by itself, not including milling, has been as high as $12 a square in the past.
In the past, and it's at $10.15 now. So it's like that, and we've worked with a couple of associations over this past year and got recent quotes. Tom pulled the trigger in his and got theirs done. I mean, the numbers are just bouncing all over the place. In our discussions with them at this time, and with this quote that we just got for the boulevard, I'm sorry, it rocks me. Next year and the year after and the year after that, we'll keep looking at paving costs, and if we can adjust it down, we'll adjust it down, and then we'll continue to adjust the schedule. But we've got a pretty good sized amount of inventory used up. By that I mean I'd say our roads overall are probably 65 or 70% used up, some 95% and some 30%. But I mean, it's just the way it comes out in the total, and I wish it wouldn't come out that way, and I feel bad being the one that has to stand here and talk to you about it, but it's the facts. And it's a financial burden that we cannot ignore. That's basically it. Anything else? Oh, Mr. Tyson?
Yeah, 2 questions.
Can you come up here, please, so that everybody can enjoy? Because there's a camera up here. I'd love to share it with you, sir. Sing a song later.
Remember,
I was in chorus for 2 years.
Until they ask you to leave.
Want to start with the song? Well, my questions are about the workshop and the fact that we covered, I think, something like $89,000 funds left available. And I wanted to ask the cart repairs, what was the final figure on that I was in favor of
That we approved?
Yes.
35,000.
35,000. Okay, the other question was that we discussed, and for some reason it's not on the agenda tonight, a shortfall of 60,189. Was that going to be discussed at another time?
That's a projection. That'll be done with the budget reconciliation.
I see, so that's kind of like on hold and then
It's a projection.
it's a projection.
Sure.
Okay, That was all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, yes, ma'am? Yes, you do. Please, we'd love to see you on camera. I want to just say,
Yeah, is anybody else in your areas having any problem with people going on the golf courses? And, like in my area, it's all the time. And I mean, I don't know what to do with. They're fishing and they're on the golf course with their carts.
yeah, was that Saturday night that you texted me?
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't in here at the time. My Ranger was on 14. By the time he rode from 14, he got to 18. He got intercepted by some people that were playing football in the middle of the fairway.
Yeah, they do.
And then by the time he got over to you, they had just you could see them leaving through and again they're residents. They're I hope up to no meaning no harm. The problem is that people watching them could be, and that's why we've asked and we've kept the construction zone in place to keep people off until it's time to open. We've all made a giant investment, and we certainly don't want somebody to take a dirt bike or a 4x4 or a golf cart that can go 35 miles an hour through those greens that are basically $45,000, $50,000 assets to the community, and cause us disruption that's going to cost us more money or slow us down in opening and cost us more revenue. So again, we are allocating more resources to patrols. When the sheriff's office comes out here, they run the golf course. They don't run the golf course. They use their cars on the cart paths with their lights flashing, with full arrest powers for somebody that's out there. The ones that I've encountered the first time have said they didn't realize it, even though they probably walked by 23 signs that said no trespassing. So I have a picture of that sign on my phone, and I show it to them, and I get their name, and you're noticed. And next time they're going to jail.
Are they the resident?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're resident.
Yeah.
Of course they are.
And they're fishing, and then they run into plantations.
Right.
From my.
And I'll speak a little bit to what Rick said, about the patrols and all that. And I've had discussions with the supervising lieutenant in this area. He's a good friend of mine, and I teach one of his kids how to play golf, hopefully. And he says that the number one thing that we as residents can do is report everything that doesn't seem right to you. Don't just let it fly by, because again, the more times that they get down there, what they call their dot patrol, where they see a dot that there's been an incident. So if we have a cluster of dots on Cypresswood, they're going to allocate more patrols to Cypresswood. The more times those police cars are in and out of here, the less the screwball activity will happen, because that's what it's mostly kids just doing what kids do, jiggling doors, and they see a purse on the thing and it's an unlocked car. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to take it.
Yeah.
So if you see something, report it to the police,
To the police.
not to the traffic control center.
No, please.
Call the non-emergency number. Report it. Report it. Report it. That's been a common theme, and it's not just our community, of course, but we can help ourselves by reporting everything. So at this point, if you see somebody out there, if you can't get a hold of me or you can't get that, call them.
Okay.
They have a trespassing order on file. It's posted. It's been posted. It's been publicized in every way conceivable to man. So it's a violation of the law. I don't want any residents to go to jail, but one resident can't determine it costs the rest of us $50,000 if they go on there with a dirt bike or with a golf cart and do spin outs in the greens.
Yep.
Yes, Martha?
For the record, in the meeting, would you please state where it is okay to go fishing?
Yes, fishing is allowed in the two ponds on the north and south side of Plantation Way only. All other ponds are on private property and require the landowner's permission to use that area. The golf course has never given permission for anybody to fish on its property. So if you abut up against a lake or a waterway, you have control over access to that property as that homeowner. I have not given permission to anybody to fish from the golf course side, ever. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that people are cutting off the golf course and coming into plantations. That little road, which is actually a driveway, those people have complained several times about people day and night cutting through their property, and that one vacant lot that's there from the golf course over into plantations.
Right, those two privately owned lots are access points from Palmacia to cut across the plantation and vice versa. Yeah, we just, again, if that homeowner needs somebody ride through, call the police.
Call the sheriff.
Call the sheriff. It's not, don't call traffic control. The guy in the box can't do a thing. Yes, sir.
The little driveway to the left of the south pond on Plantation Way.
Yes.
Goes to the Man Ranch.
Yes.
That is a private road owned by the Man Ranch and the two residents on that drive.
Right.
It's not a public road. So they've called me any number of times about people, Peggy has, about people parking over there.
Since we don't allow vehicle parking around those ponds, I've noticed that as well, and I've asked people not to park there because it's not community association property, and they're risking getting their cars
That's
towed by.
their road only.
Correct.
No longer a county road. It's
Right.
private.
Right. All right. Yes, Mr. Cram?
Move for adjournment.
I will accept that movement unless anybody has, Mark, you have a second? Thank you. We are adjourned. Everybody have a good evening.